These are all the people you can choose from, and here's the possible person.
If you've been dating for a while, you've had the joy of Bumble, which is very cool, built from a women's perspective. I'm kind of jealous that that wasn't around when I was a kid. You've probably, I'm just saying, spent some time on Field to see what it is like to have a dating app for open-minded individuals. Followed Matthew Hussey, gone to his workshops, had tears and love together. You've done all that. You've had all the advice about dating. You've had all the bad dates. You've had too many drinks. You've crawled under the bed after eating 3 pints of Ben and Jerry's. And now you're thinking, I am ready. I am ready to put down roots. I am ready to create a life with someone. And it's time for me to learn some new skills and shift gears. Well, that I know how to do. I have had experience doing that, and I'm gonna tell you what's up just like I would if you were my grandchild and you caught me in a good moment, maybe after a glass of wine. Here we go. Shared values are everything in some ways to picking a partner who's going to last. I've learned that in a way in my experience of a first marriage. I married him because he was a very smart but very rebellious guy. He was interested in ways to kind of cheat the government, find ways to get things done that didn't sit well with me. And I didn't know to think of it that way at the time, but he also believed that a marriage could be open for only one person. He wasn't someone who cared about working hard. He would work hard for himself. He was into marathons, but he was also really fine with my paying all the bills, including tuition for him to get through law school and then get his master's degree. Every part of that went against the grain for me. It just wasn't consistent with how I like to live in the world. I didn't share his values. I think a lot of the questions I had about even trying again were really about values questions. Could I find somebody who thought that the things I believed were important in life were of primary importance? Those big issues. You want to be together on those, or as many of them as you can. That's true in love, it's true in work, it's true in everything. Relationships don't last when you have fundamentally different values. I'm not saying anybody's values are better or worse. I'm just saying that if your values don't line up, you're going to have a hard time being anything to each other because you're going to want to do everything differently. And it is so true for marriage. I think about something as basic that people talk about a lot, but it's only one thing. There's, do you or don't you want to have kids? Okay, that's one decision. But there's another one of how important is family to you? Are you someone who grew up having dinner with grandma every Sunday? And there's somebody who doesn't see the world that way and thinks having dinner with grandma every Sunday is a bummer and, would rather go play golf with you, right? It doesn't want to be with you. Are you someone who is passionate about travel and wants to travel and see the world and have those different experiences? Are they someone who wants that? Do you want to be outside all the time with your person? Is your primary value a set of ecological values that have to do with packaging, garbage disposal, what you eat, what you buy, how you live? Living with someone who's into luxury consumption, I'm not saying that it can't work. I'm just saying when your values are diametrically opposed, then you're going to have more to work on.
Remember, the good Lord gave us all 5 senses, not 1, 5 senses. And we tend to pick people based on what they look like. Oh, they look hot. Last night, we decided to go in our time travel machine and watch a 1980s television series called Miami Vice, starring Don Johnson, who is Dakota Johnson's daddy. And I looked at him, great looking guy, right? Great looking guy. And the only thing I could think was, wow, he doesn't have abs. Were there no abs then? So we're trained now to only use our eyes. But if we only use our eyes picking someone, we're not getting all the information we could get. So what are some other senses we could use? One,
our nose. There has been a ton of scientific research about how your partner smells. Understand, I am ruling out BO, whether or not that works for you on your person. Hey, that's your deal. Or, something you buy in duty free. I'm talking about their natural smell. And they did something called the dirty t-shirt research. Couldn't make this up. I remember when it came out, it really hit me. And what they did was have women and men smell dirty t-shirts, and then they, did all their fancy stuff. And it turns out that the people who smelled the best to each other were the ones who were genetically most different. Now that makes sense because the more different you are genetically, the higher the chances are you're going to have a healthy baby. So smell is linked to making healthy babies. And then everybody started thinking about it and it was like, yeah, well, smell doesn't necessarily lead to healthy relationships. So we know that smell matters. We don't know how much it matters. My story about smell is I love to slow dance with pop-ups. Maybe because that's the one thing we're good at. But also I like to smell his neck. There have been so many times I've smelled Pop-Up's neck and thought, he smells like home. So use your nose. Use your ears, which we'll talk about in a little while. Use your touch. Is there something about touching them or they're touching you that feels good, that doesn't feel good? I'm not talking about technique, which can be taught, as you all know. I'm just talking about, do you find yourself touching them and that touching them gives you pleasure? That's more important than we give it credit for being. And taste, that doesn't have to be sexual either. And it can be. It's just noticing consciously, I have 5 senses. Let me use them all when I make a judgment instead of just using my eyeballs, which have been kind of reshapen by societal influences and pressures. So before I talked about senses, and now I'm going to talk about the other sense we have, that little voice that is in our head, in our belly. That voice usually either warns us or tells us this is the one. Now, I think it's a really good idea to listen to that voice with one exception. And that exception is when you confuse that little voice with the voice that comes maybe from darker places, from your shadow self. So I was thinking about it because long ago, I had a therapist. Y'all know I had a big depressive incident when I was 26. I was in therapy. And there was this guy who was very by the book. And I had met someone and it was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the therapist said, And it's like, what? You are like the least romantic human in the world. What is wrong with you? Did they squeeze all the lifeblood out of you in therapy school? And he said, Ronna, you grew up in such an emotionally charged household. You grew up in a household where there was so much drama and so much trauma. You're still looking for that in someone else. We tend to be attracted to what we know. And I was attracted to operas. Like a lot of people, I didn't think I wanted a nice guy. I didn't want a nice guy. In my freshman year in high school, I dumped a nice guy to go out with the bad boy who had the big red motorcycle. I wanted bad boys. And it took the psychiatrist to tell me, yeah, great, enjoy yourself. Bad boys for hookups. When you're thinking about marriage, don't trust all those messages that come from a darker place, which those messages are processed in your brain, but also down south. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not telling you don't want to be hot for the person that you're going to spend your life with. You absolutely do. But if you are crazy ass over them, just take a little longer, right? Just take a little bit longer, because it could be that you're just going back to an old pattern, and you don't want to do that. You want a new pattern for a life that is better than the one you were destined to experience if you'd stayed on that old road. As you move through life, what you imagine your life is going to be changes over time. You know, vision is not static, it is a moving target. And in my first marriage, we'd only gotten as far as he would go to law school and then he would be a lawyer. And we decided to live in Washington, D.C. because that's where he would go to law school, and that's where his brother lived, and maybe that's where he would be a lawyer. But we didn't have any vision beyond that. We didn't talk about shared dreams together. With Pop Pops, we have always spent a lot of time talking about, oh, do we want to do this? Do we want to do that? What do we want to do next? And we're still talking about what we want to do in the future. We want to continue to work together as much as we can, as long as we can. We're very clear about what we want to do, and we're very clear about what we want to do with money, what we want to save up for, how we want to spend our time. So there's negotiation at the edges, but our values are very similar, and they've gotten more similar because we have negotiated with those head on. Family was always more obviously important to me than it was to Pop Pops. He had sort of the feeling of he didn't need family, his growing up family that much. And I believed, I pledged allegiance to family. So we had to work through finding a point where how much do we value family, and what does that mean? The thing a lot of us get wrong is that we think that value is separate from action. We talk about having values, but we don't talk about how we're living. And how we're living, the actions we're taking, are our values. How we choose to spend our time, that is the living definition of our values. Whether or not we drink water, eat our vegetables, that has to do with our values. What we're doing, what we're choosing to do together, that all has to do with values. And so talking about them as values is just a way to get to, hey, how are we going to live? Key to our vision right now is growing this digital brand. One way our vision has changed is we care much more now about growing a digital community, growing a community, seeing how helpful we can be to how many people, and whether or not at this point in our life we can be helpful to other couples. We still believe in that old Beatles song, the love you take is equal to the love you make. So what we're doing now is trying to figure out how we create love, share it with people, have it bounce back to us, and then create more. So it's about co-creating solutions for couples, not being an expert, not being someone who went to school and studied the diagnostic manual who can give you a code for what's wrong. Just as two people who have had the experience of marriages that didn't work and the joy of a marriage that did work, and a life that's working really well, and wanting to share that with you and yours. The thing about picking a partner first is that it's sort of uncool. You're supposed to not want to pick a partner. You're just supposed to be in the moment. But hey, come on. At some point, a lot of us want to pick a partner. We want someone to get old with. We want someone to build our lives with. We want all that. And so, because there's sort of almost shame around, I want to pick a partner, it can be a little hard to talk about. And even to yourself, it can be hard to admit that what I want now is to pick a partner. And then the answers tend to be really focused on ourselves and what, the work we should be doing, which is really important. Make your list of everything your partner will be and then manifest that. Well, I think that's cool, except if I had made a list of the partner I wanted to pick, it wouldn't have been pop ups. I didn't even know what I wanted until I was in dialogue. So I believe the problem of picking a partner is not one that you can do by yourself. You learn how to pick a partner and you move toward finding someone to spend your life with by talking to other people. So here's the thing that I know from talking to you. Once you are chill, it's Friday night, you've had some kind of substance, right? You're relaxing a little bit. And there's this fear of, am I ever going to find the right person for me? I want to do that, but how am I going to do that? I know how to do that. I did it. And I know other people who have done it. It can be done. So it's really a question of admitting to yourself that's what you want. And then there are skills you can learn to figure out how you're going to pick the right person. There's one more issue in picking the right partner, and that is the belief that I've heard come up for lots of people. They say it themselves and other people say it about them. I just am terrible at picking, men, women, them. I'm terrible at picking. I always pick the wrong ones. And it sort of makes me think that, they look at life like they're in the grocery store and they're the apples that look beautiful and shiny and you want to sink your teeth in them. And then they're apples that maybe have yuck inside and that the person believes they're always going to pick the wrong one. And then they are afraid because they think, oh, whether or not I pick the right apple is going to determine everything. And they get that way about life partners too, because they start believing, you start believing, we start believing, I'm just a terrible picker. The reason I have had this series of bad relationships is that I always pick the wrong person, or I attract the wrong kind of person and I let them pick me. And then I wake up one morning and I find myself in a situation I don't want to be. So there's this microscopic focus on, I must pick the right person. If I pick the right person, everything's going to be okay. And if I pick the wrong person, everything's going to be terrible. And my whole future depends on picking the right person, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because there is no right person. There are people that are not right for you, but there isn't a single right person. And also, what you're choosing is a person you can be right with, right? It's not them that they're right and you have to pick the right one. It's, can you be right together? That's what you're looking for. And that's what I've learned over 50 years. There was a little bit of time when women were saying, I'm fine by myself. I am fine. I don't need a man. I don't need a man in my life because I can make my own money. I can do my own thing. I can do everything I need to do by myself. And that is completely true. What I have found, though, is that we're very much like trees in that the longer a couple works it through and stays together, the deeper the roots, the more they intertwine, the more they can support. And so because I'm in a long-term committed relationship, I feel like I'm more and not less. I am more. I can be more to more people. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do YouTube videos. I couldn't do video shorts. I couldn't get done everything I want to get done if I didn't have a partner. So when you start out, that's kind of a fantasy and you don't know how to get there, but it's the daily activity of growing, like growing anything. You plant a couple of seeds together, you pay attention to the shoots. Maybe they need to be in a different location. Maybe they need to be a little bit further apart for a while. You know, there are lots of things that change for any living ecology. What I have learned being married for a long time is that deep partnerships, deep relationships of any kind are part of the larger ecology, the ecology of social connection of the world, of the universe. You know, I sound like I'm pretty far out there, except I know I'm not. When we invest in using energy positively and productively, and we find someone who can help us do that, when we can do that together, then that's what we can do if we feel that we want to help make the world a better place. I've talked to a lot of people, especially a lot of young people, who are feeling very sad now, who say things like, why would I want to bring a child into the world because it's so terrible, things are awful, bad, you know, blah, 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 blah. Everything has just gone to hell. You boomers really trashed us. Well, I don't know. I think that there is more you can do to create the world you want than you know. And part of that involves the choice you make about who you spend your time with, what kind of energy you invest in those people, including your romantic partner, and how you nurture that so that as you grow together, you create and support all kinds of life in the world. I am not able, never was able, to have my own biological children. And yet, together, Pop-Ups and I have created and supported all kinds of life. Our roots are very intertwined. There are people who really can't quite imagine one of us without the other, me included. And so the beauty of that, for anyone who thinks they may even want it, that's something that I know how to support and that me and Pop-Ups both want to support.
Thank you so much for watching the video. It means the world to me. I want you to know this. If you're the kind of person who is very in touch with your feelings and not all of your feelings are helping you, if you feel like you don't have the tools you need to take action in your life, to take the next step, to create a rich life for yourself, and you wish there was someone in your life who was loving, who was not judging you, who was shielding you, if you're looking for someone who's speaking from life experience and not textbooks, then I can be your loving granny. I can be there for you. I can be a new kind of granny, a bonus granny for you. And you can be part of the community we're building that will be a private community and a safe space to talk about things that are about energy, that have an orientation to people who are empathic, who feel a lot, but also about getting things done that are very practical and very specific about how to make it happen. That's what we're doing. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please hit subscribe. Y'all know how to do that. And then you'll be there for all the amazing things that I'll be doing with the team this year and with you as you become part of the team. There's so much we can do together. As we move past, I'm the expert, you're the listener. No, we're on this life journey together. I've been on it longer and have some perspectives to offer. And I am also here to listen lovingly to you. So please be in touch. You can DM me. You can be in touch with me. I promise to answer. I'm there for you. Thank you.